Welcome to Homefront Service, a manual for managers. If you own or manage a business that works in customers' homes, or if you'd like to, this program will change forever your view of business. So, sit back, focus, listen, and enjoy as Steve Toburin, the president of Concepts of Value, introduces you to Homefront Service.
Hello, I'd like to welcome you aboard to a course that will introduce transformational concepts into your life. I promise that you're going to gain a new vision of your business with the information that I'll share with you. You're going to receive the tools, you're going to get the concepts, and the procedures to build systems that will consistently guide the relationship between your employees and your customers. And these service-engineered systems will routinely create in your business what I call cheerleader customers. And these are customers that are so delighted, so ecstatic, and yes, frankly, so surprised at the level of service your company has provided that they're going to go out of their way to recommend your services to others. Now, every business has cheerleaders. In fact, as I defined the term cheerleaders, my guess is that you were thinking of some customers right now that just knocked themselves out acting as unpaid salespeople for your company. And you don't have to pay these cheerleader customers. They're happy to just do it because they had such good feelings from the great service that you gave them. And the problem is that most businesses in America today, they don't have enough cheerleaders. Think about your operation. What percentage of your total customers do you think fit into this cheerleader profile? This idea of someone being an unpaid salesperson for your company. What do you think? 10%? 20%? Be truthful here. There's nobody around but you and me. And in fact, when we start analyzing our own companies, I'm reminded of that great quotation from the novelist Gore Vidal. And Mr. Vidal said, "It's par for the course trying to fool the people, but it's downright dangerous when we start fooling ourselves." So now, honestly, what percentage do you think that you have of cheerleader customers in your business? 10%? 5%? 1%? But on a brighter note, what would it do for your business if you doubled, tripled, or quadrupled your cheerleader ratio? What if 40 or 50% of your clients were cheerleader customers? Just think of the satisfaction. Think of the sense of accomplishment. Think of the money that you'd make if you had systems in place to consistently create delighted salespeople from your customer base. Now, in a minute, I'm going to tell you a little about my background in the residential services industry. But first, let me ask you a few questions. Let's start out with some business questions. Do you face competition? And you know what I mean, bruising, agonizing, gut-wrenching competition, with the customer pie being cut up in smaller and smaller pieces. You feel like you're getting nibbled to death. The struggle out there is more and more intense. And do both your competitors and your customers beat you up on price to where they sound like a lot of chickens out there? Cheaper, cheaper, cheap, 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 cheap. That's all they talk about. And your employees, what about your employees? Yes, your employees. You know, we can't live with them, and I'm guessing we'd love to live without them. Because don't employees drive us crazy? In my work with small service companies around the country, these are the 3 complaints that surface over and over again among owners and managers of small service companies: our competition, our customers, and our employees. I call them the problem triangle: competition, difficult customers, and childish, ridiculous employees. And here you thought you were the only small business person with these problems. Believe me, the problem triangle binds all of us together with a common denominator: problems with our competitors, problems with our customers, and most of all, terrible, terrible problems with our employees. Now, my personal promise to you is that in this course, you will discover practical, solid help on each point of this problem triangle. But now, let me, please, ask you a few personal questions. Are you tired? I'm talking deep down, soul-sick tired. Do you feel battered and beat up on? Has the fun gone out of your work? Has it been a long time since you felt joy or a deep sense of accomplishment and satisfaction in building your business? Do you feel fear when the phone rings? And are you afraid? Do you feel a sense of dread when it comes time to go to work? Well, see, I'm going to guess that you found yourself nodding yes to at least some of my personal questions. And you know why? Because I felt every one of those things during my 20 years that I was in Homefront service. So don't feel bad. I know how you feel. Most of us out there in small businesses feel these negative emotions. And some of these negative emotions, such as fear, in moderation, they're not necessarily bad. In fact, maybe you've heard of the CEO of Intel. His name is Andrew Grove. And Mr. Grove is famous for a 4-word statement. But before I tell you what it is, I'd like to refresh your memory on Intel. Intel has had a near monopoly on computer chips for years and years, and they still dominate the market. Intel is a $10 billion a year company. You know how much that is? $10 billion a year? That's $28 million a day, even on Sundays and holidays. And that company, Intel, they enjoy a huge profit margin on that $10 billion. Now, if anyone would be justified in being smug, being complacent, maybe yawning on the way to work, well, certainly it would be the president of that company, Mr. Andrew Grove. And yet Mr. Grove is very fond of this beautiful 4-word sentence, only the paranoid survive. And he doesn't just say it about business. He's built an entire corporation around that motto, only the paranoid survive. You see, a moderate amount of fear, a moderate amount of paranoia, it can be a powerful antidote to what I call the 3-stage life cycle to disaster. Stage 1, complacency. Stage 2, arrogance. Stage 3, bankruptcy. And if even huge companies such as General Motors and IBM can be humbled and brought to the brink of disaster by this smug, complacent attitude that leads to arrogance, think how much more dangerous this life cycle can be for those of us in small service businesses. And you know what's funny? Except it's not funny, it's pitiful. In my work around the country, I find far too many residential service companies that are far along this 3-stage life cycle to disaster. They start out hungry, they start out scared, and then pretty soon, well, they get complacent, and then they get arrogant, and then their phone doesn't ring anymore. But see, you're not arrogant. You're not smug. You're not complacent. In fact, my guess is you're a little bit scared, and you're hungry. Now, you're not physically hungry. In fact, my guess is you're probably a very successful business person. But you see, it's your fear and your hunger for more knowledge that has brought you the success you've already received. Michael Gerber is a respected consultant, and he's the author of a book I've placed in your recommended reading list found in the back of your course outline. And the name of this book is The E-Myth. And in the introduction, Mr. Gerber states, "The people who succeed in business don't do so because of what they know, but because of their insatiable need to know more." So good for you. You're hungry for anything to help you play the game of business better. Not because you'll make more money, but because you want to be the very best at this game we're all in. You want to be a champion. And I'm just egotistical enough to think that I can help you. You see, I spent 20 years down in the trenches running service businesses that primarily worked in people's homes. Now, my businesses mostly did carpet cleaning, furniture cleaning, remodeling, fire and water damage restoration, but the principles and the concepts that I'll share with you in this course will apply in any service business, especially if you work with customers on location in their homes. Now, these messages aren't vague motivational exhortations, what I call fly with the eagle speeches. Not at all. You know, I have a pet peeve with motivational type courses because I always say they're the Chinese food of business literature. You know, the problem with them is you listen to them, you get all pumped up, all excited, and then an hour later you're hungry. They kind of leave you gasping. It's like, well, why did I even listen? But instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to share with you solid, practical things to help. Because you see, every day I went to work hungry during those 20 years I spent in business. I went to work hungry for knowledge, hungry for a better concept, a new way to do things. And I kept on being hungry. I kept on being scared and a little bit paranoid long after I had achieved business and financial success. You know what? My guess is you're the same way. That's why you're still listening to me drone on and on here in my introduction, and don't think I don't appreciate it, but hey, let's get started right now. And you see, there's no question out there that customer service is the buzzword of the 90s. It's a cliche. We hear it all the time, don't we? Inc. magazine, Forbes, Business Week, customer service in the Wall Street Journal. We hear about it in the business TV shows and books constantly. Service, service, service. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. We're going to talk throughout this course about how important service, this obsessive attention to service detail is. But let me explain why this course, Service on the Homefront, a manual for managers, and my company, Concepts of Value, and all the other programs that we produce, why we're so different. Now, it's no secret that you can go into any major bookstore and find hundreds of titles on customer service. There's thousands of consultants out there on customer service, and many of them are excellent. I've learned a lot from many. And these customer service consultants will preach it in seminars, in videos, and in audio cassette programs just like this one. So what makes this course and my company, Concepts of Value, so different? You know, it's really very simple. All of the books, all of the seminars and videos on customer service up till now have focused on the retail, the distribution, or the manufacturing segments. And you can find tons of information on customer service in restaurants and customer service for hotels and retail stores, banking, airlines. And even though I'm still not personally convinced that any of them follow it, there's even a lot of information out there on customer service for the medical profession and for your friendly local doctors. But as far as I'm aware, no one has addressed the unique customer service challenges found when we work in our customers' homes. And that's my niche with my company, Concepts of Value, customer service in the residential environment. Now, I've borrowed a lot of service management procedures that have been developed and proven and tested in a lot of different industries. But over the years, I created customer service systems designed around the emotions that our customers feel when we work in their homes. And all of these ideas and procedures have been tested and refined and worked on, both in my own companies and also in the businesses of my customers around the world. They do work. Wherever you do business, whatever industry you're in, I guarantee it. Now, I could take the next 30 minutes and lay out exact customer service procedures to you, and I'd say, do this, do that. And you know what? It'd work. Your business would be improved immeasurably. But instead, I'd like to share with you the building blocks, the transformational concepts with you, a new way of looking at the service industry and a new vision of your customer, and then I'll give you the specific ideas on how to improve. See, I could shoot you a lot of quick and dirty tips and ideas, but please, instead, invest a few hours with me now, and along the way, get the tools to build a real business. You're going to build a beautiful operation that will consistently create these delighted customer cheerleaders. So let me start out, please, by giving you the big picture. Let's talk about what I call fighting on the home front. And the home front is my term for working in people's homes. Because, see, it is a front. It's a war. It's a whole battlefront in a war. Now, I'm not talking about an adversarial relationship here where you're fighting with your customers, even though I'll tell you that happens way too much. You see, instead, the home front, it's a war for our customers' minds and their hearts. It's a battle for customer loyalty. And if you win in this battle on this front, you're going to win big. You're going to make tons of money, and you're going to feel great about your business. But you see, if we're going to win on the home front, the first thing we have to realize is it's a totally different universe out there. Working in our customers' homes is totally different from any other business sector. So let's examine 4 major differences between a residential services business where you're working in your customer's home and, let's say the differences between that and owning and running a retail store in a shopping mall. And I'll mention all 4 briefly of these 4 major differences, and then let's examine them one at a time. Point number 1 is that on a home front, the buying transaction, and especially the customer satisfaction, is affected primarily by their emotions. Number 2, the second reason that working on the home front is so different is that it's easy for the customer to feel trapped in their home because they can't make what I call an anonymous withdrawal. And point number 3 is that the logistics of a home front business is a whole lot tougher. And finally, the 4th major difference between running a business on the home front and a retail operation is it's easy to lose control of the employee-customer interaction. In other words, most of your customer service transactions happen outside of your site and your direct control. So let's look deeper at home front type businesses and the unique circumstances that we encounter when we work in our customers' homes. Remember our first point, that it's important to remember we're primarily dealing with emotions on the home front. Do you doubt me? Well, think about it. Have you ever heard the phrase, home is where the heart is? So when we think of the home front, think about a war for our customer's heart. See, remember, the home front is totally different from any other business sector. In no other area are people's hearts tied up in the process like they are when we work in their homes. Let's say you provide a service for a business, maybe a large corporation. You know what it is? It's a very cut and dried procedure. You contract to deliver certain work, performed to certain specifications, and done according to an agreed-upon time schedule. And if you meet these requirements, well, the business, they pay you, and you start the process with another business. Now, I'm not saying here that good customer service and relationship building isn't important in the commercial sector. It is. It's very important. But generally, the quality of your service is judged by agreed-upon, clearly defined standards. You with me on that? When we provide our services to other businesses, it's by and large an unemotional event. Did you hear that? I said an unemotional event. Now, can we say that services when we work in our customers' homes are unaffected by emotions? Absolutely not. In fact, as we're going to learn, our customers make almost all of their decisions about our employees, our company, and even the quality of our service emotionally. Now, it's obvious that people are going to feel a lot different about their homes than other possessions they own. And especially, I'm going to take a risk here of not being politically correct. Many women have a deep and strong emotional attachment to the condition of their homes, and that's great. Now, the easy answer to this is that all these people have this deep, strong emotional attachment just because they have a lot of money tied up in their homes. For most people, a home is going to be the largest single financial investment they ever make. But it's not the money. Let's go deeper on this subject of emotional attachment to someone's home. Let's use a little word association here. Are you ready? What comes to your mind when I say the word home? Isn't that a beautiful word? Home. Okay, you got those words? Well, let's see if I'm right. Did anything like warmth, security, peace, safety, did any of those words come into your mind when I mentioned the word home? You see, our customers are so focused on the warmth and the security of their homes, the 90s have given rise to the term cocooning. And cocooning is where people have had so many problems, so many stresses during their work week and in their social relationships that when the weekend comes, you know what happens? They go home and they draw their house around them just like a warm blanket on a cold night. And they stay there. They don't leave. Now, contrast that stay-at-home attitude with the yuppies, the yuppie generation that we had during the 1980s. Do you remember them? And the yuppies, they were on the go all the time. They had their special hot spots. They had their nightlife, their singles bars. They had their one-night stands. Life in the fast lane. Not true anymore, is it? Now, you might be saying, why is Steve introducing sociological commentary into an audio course on customer service? Well, that's a good question. Bear with me. You remember, I promised you the big picture on the residential services industry. And the big picture tells us that those self-indulgent yuppies, those people with the life in the fast lane in the 80s, well, guess what? They're now your customers. These ex-yuppies, they're cocooning. They're retreating to the safety of their homes. And the causes, well, there's a lot of different causes. Crime, workplace violence, a general breakdown of social networks and support groups, the problems that AIDS brought into the whole social scene. Now, take all of those pressures and then add in the incredibly fast pace of our life that we live now. And what do you have? Cocooning, retreating. And our customers are shrinking away from these problems in the safe, sane, secure environment of their homes. And what do we see? Well, we see a lot of new trends because of this. Home theaters, cable TV shopping networks, all sorts of food being delivered to the house. Why? Because people love their homes. Now, the bright spot in this picture for you is that when customers spend more time in their home, they care more about its condition, and they're going to pay you a lot more to maintain their home. The downside is that if we refuse to recognize the emotional factors of working in our customers' homes, we are going to pay a huge price in callbacks and ticked-off lost clients. Now, much of this course is focused on how to build systems to deal with the emotions of your customer. But for now, just always remember that the major difference between the Homefront and buying of any other service or any other good is that emotions play a huge part in our customers' homes. The second difference between the retail environment and Homefront service is that the customer in the retail environment is outside of their home. You see, the buying transaction takes place on location in the store, in that shopping mall. And if the customer walks into that store and they just don't like it, they don't like something, if they don't like the service, if they don't like the product, well, what do? They leave. And they can, if they choose, go back into the safe, secure environment of their home. And there's absolutely no emotional confrontation. There's no emotional expenditure involved in leaving this transaction and cutting it short. Think about yourself. Maybe you're out walking around the shopping mall and you walk into a new store and instinctively, deep down, you just don't care for it. Maybe the store's kind of cluttered up. Maybe it's dirty. Maybe there's tobacco smoke in the air and you're a non-smoker. But for whatever reason, just deep down, your body says, time to leave. Get out of here. And so you turn to leave. And as you walk out, maybe a salesperson calls out to you and says, can I help you? Well, what do you say? You just say, no, thanks. I'm just looking. Or maybe you say, not now, thanks. I'll come back later. And of course, you're never going to go back into that store. You didn't like it. Well, you know what you just did? You easily bailed out. You did what I call making an anonymous withdrawal. You anonymously left. But now, what about when someone works in a customer's home? Can the customer make an easy, anonymous withdrawal if they don't like the way the employees, the technicians, are acting in their home? Absolutely not. You see, it's very easy for your customer to feel backed into a corner. Your customer feels vulnerable. They feel trapped. And if they don't like the service, if they don't like the way our employees are dealing with them in their home, they can't leave. And they can't kick us out without making this huge emotional confrontation. It's a very, very sticky, very ugly situation, potentially. Strangers working inside a customer's home brings a lot of fear into their heart. In fact, you've heard the phrase, a man's home is his castle. Well, in fact, maybe that phrase even came into your mind when we talked about those home-type feelings of warmth, safety, peace, and security in your castle. Well, guess what? When we have employees working in our customer's home, in the homeowner's mind, we're inside the castle, and we're intruders with the drawbridge down. Now, this potential feeling of our customers feeling trapped in their homes can either be a blessing or a curse to us. If we ignore these emotional dynamics, if we don't explain the customer's feelings of loss of control and vulnerability to our employees, we're going to suffer. Likely we've suffered in the past and not even known it. We've suffered with callbacks, dissatisfied customers, and not even realized the true reason that most complaints occur. See, most complaints occur on the home front not necessarily because we did bad work, but because our customers have felt intimidated and they fight back the only way they know how, by complaining. And they justify those feelings of intimidation, those negative feelings, by finding a reason to complain. See, the odd thing here is that many times the work itself is great, certainly good. But if our employees fail to build their work systems around the customer's feelings of being trapped, we're going to pay for it. But on the other hand, if we've detected these potential negative customer feelings and then even more importantly understood them and built our service delivery systems around them, around this idea of giving our customers good, positive, emotional feelings, well then you know what will happen? Our customers will reward us by becoming customer cheerleaders. So please, as you proceed throughout this course, always keep in mind the potentially ugly emotions you face as your customers feel trapped, vulnerable, and out of control as your employees work in their homes. Now, the third difference between the home front and running a retail store is logistics. Home front businesses are usually scattered all over town, and consequently, it's no secret to you that with your trucks, your crews, and your equipment spread out all over the place, it's going to be real tough to keep proper inventory and supply systems in place. Now, in retail, it's easy to set up a system to do that. It's all there. It's all right out in front of you. Now, this third difference of the problems of logistics, it's not new to you. In fact, you've probably been fighting it a lot longer than I have. But certainly the supply and inventory area is a lot tougher on the home front than it is in one fixed location. But it's not just inventory and supplies that are tough to keep control of out there on the home front. There's another area that's crucial to control, and you know what? It's almost impossible to do so on the home front. And that's right, you guessed it. Our fourth and last major difference between the home front and a retail establishment is that it's so hard to keep track of what's going on between our employees and our customers. See, as we've already mentioned, the retail customer is on your turf. They're in your store, and you have the home field advantage as far as determining the outcome and knowing whether they're happy with the buying transaction. In fact, if you're a good retail store owner, you're probably obsessed already with this idea of customer service. So what do you do if you own a retail store? You watch, you observe. And maybe if you're a sneaky manager like me, you're going to eavesdrop a little bit on the conversations between your employees and the customer. And this home field advantage of having the entire buying process unfold before you, well, what's it do? It lets you keep tight control. If you see something you'd like to correct, just as soon as the customer leaves, what do? You call Sally, your salesperson, over and you say, Sally, I've really appreciated how hard you've been working lately. But, we had a mistake when you treated that customer a certain way. Let me explain to you how we need to do it next time. You see my point? In other words, in the retail environment, it's easy for you as a manager to be very hands-on with customer service. You're in the loop. You give immediate counsel and feedback to your employees. Now, in this course, we're going to use a great deal the example of a stage play to illustrate the customer service area. Now, in a retail environment, customer service can be structured as a fairly predictable, normally routine screenplay. After all, you own and control the stage, you own the set, and you even own the players and the employees, except for your customers. Now, what about the home front? Yeah, things are a little different, aren't they? You see, on the home front stage, the sets are changing all the time. The stages change. The script is variable. We never even know which play is going to be acted out as our actors or our employees walk up to the customer's door. And probably most importantly for the subject of our course, our actors, our employees, they're out of our sight. They're out of our hearing, and most importantly, outside of our direct control. Just think about it. As managers, we're trying to direct a stage play that we can't even see or hear. Now that's a challenge. No wonder we have problems. No wonder that the customer service procedures that work great in the retail sector, they fail when we work on the home front. So point number 4 on the major differences of the home front is the really big one. All these customer service interactions, the hundreds of little stage plays that happen every week between our employees and our clients, they happen outside of our control. Well, what's that mean? Put very bluntly, it means that all too often as managers, we live on in happy ignorance while these unwitnessed stage plays out there are collapsing around us and dragging our company down in the process. So in this course, we're going to work on systems that allow us to keep control to properly direct the customer's service stage play as it unfolds in the customer's homes. So let me ask you, are you looking already at your business and your industry a little bit differently? Has the big picture changed for you as we analyze the 4 major differences between other business environments and working in our customers' homes? Let's review them. Number 1, Homefront customers make most of their value and quality decisions on the work we do. How do they do it? Emotionally. Because why? A home is the single most important possession in people's lives, and they feel deeply about how it's cared for. Point number 2. Most Homefront customers feel trapped, vulnerable, and especially out of control with strangers working in their house. Why do they feel this way? Because they can't withdraw in an anonymous manner if they get bad vibes from the workers in their home. Number 3, the sheer logistical problems of working on-site with jobs scattered all over your entire market base can be overwhelming at times. The inventory, supplies, and organizing the daily work, it's a lot tougher on the home front than in a retail store. And point number 4, as a Homefront manager, you have it a lot tougher because almost all of your company's customer service stage plays are happening outside of your direct control. Now, these 4 huge points are unique to the Homefront. Do you see now why customers universally rate Homefront service businesses very low on the satisfaction index? Do you see now why the failure rate is so high in your industry? But that's not you. You're not going to fail. And the reason why is because you're going to focus your entire energies on customer service and, even more importantly, on creating systems to consistently create customer cheerleaders. In our last message, we focused on the home front, that weird business battleground that's totally different from anywhere else. We talked about how the home front is a constant fight for your customer's heart, an ongoing battle for customer loyalty. On the home front, we're besieged with what I call the problem triangle: unscrupulous competition, disloyal customers, and childish, apathetic employees. It's enough to make a grown adult sit down and cry, and to be honest with you, I've done that more than once. We discussed that the home front is a war, and as a business manager, you're the general for your company. It's a wise general that knows the country he's fighting on. So we talked about why the home front is so different from any other business sector you've been involved with. We analyzed 4 major points that set the home front apart. Point number 1. On the home front, our customer's opinion of the job quality is affected heavily by their emotions. Point number 2. When we work in our customers' homes, it's easy for them to feel trapped. They can't withdraw anonymously. Point number 3. The logistics of a home front company are tougher than most other business areas. And finally, Point number 4, and possibly the biggest problem on the home front, is that it's so easy to lose control of how your employees are treating your customers. It's just so easy for us to live in happy ignorance and ignore customer service on the home front. Customer service. Now, certainly customer service isn't unique to the home front. All businesses of every type face customer service challenges and opportunities. Up till now, we've been focusing on the home front and what makes it different, what makes it so tough to work in. But now, let's talk about customer service in general. We're going to look at some business statistics that will help us understand customer service in industry in general and especially in our company. We'll examine the true costs and benefits of customer service and get away from all this touchy-feely emotional stuff and look at solid facts on what customer service can mean in our business. Point number 1. One statistic states that it costs 5 to 6 times more to get a new customer than to retain an old one. Why the dramatic difference? On average, we're going to spend at least 500% more to get a new customer than to keep an old one. Well, one reason is that these previous satisfied customers have already been sold. So we don't have to go through our whole dog and pony marketing show, selling them and advertising the benefits of our service. And see, when you're not constantly advertising to replace unhappy lost customers with new fresh ones, you're going to save a huge amount of money. So that's where much of this 500% figure comes in, the fact that it costs 500% more to get a new customer than to keep an old one. Also, it's usually cheaper to actually perform your service for a satisfied previous client. After all, these previous clients have been pre-trained. Your old happy customers have reasonable expectations. They know what to expect. And if we've done our job right the first time that we worked for a customer, we won't have to endure the dreaded customer witch hunt when we work for them the second time around. You know what I mean when I say customer witch hunt. We've all been there. That's where, when we're done, the customer drags out that big old magnifying glass and inspects our work with an intensity that would put a Marine Corps drill instructor to shame. It doesn't matter if your work is absolutely perfect. A witch-hunting customer will find something to complain about. Happy, delighted cheerleader customers that you've pleased in the past, they're not going to witch-hunt your job. And this saves a huge amount of money in callbacks and free return work. And the fascinating thing here is, all of this money that's saved, it goes straight to the bottom line. Now, does that sound logical to you? Sure it does. But I'm here to promise you that your competitors are rushing around, spending huge sums of money and expending incredible effort just to replace the customers they've lost because of their ignorance of basic customer service procedures. In other words, let your competitors exhaust themselves battering their heads against the wall. With service on the home front, you're going to be able to excuse yourself from this stupid, pointless, idiotic game. Why? Because you know a secret that not one business owner in 50 truly grasps. That it's 500% more expensive to get a new customer than to just keep an old one. So, what are you going to do? Logically, you're going to focus more effort on consistently delighting the customers that you already have. Point number 2 on these basic customer service principles. When we think of games, we need to think of customer service. And you know why? Because customer service is a game of details. We'll learn in this course that details are constantly adding up on your customer's mental scorecard. And in fact, usually it takes 12 good service experiences, 12 good service details, or what we call moments of truth that are positive, to make up and overcome a single bad detail, a single bad experience. You get that? 12 good details to compensate for one bad detail. So are you starting to see how important it is to manage and control service details between our employees and our customers? You remember Art Linkletter and his TV show, Kids Say the Darndest Things? You remember that? Well, customers make their value decisions on the darndest, silliest things. Silly, stupid little customer service details. Think of the customers you've worked for. Nothing wrong with the work. Maybe it was even an excellent job, but somewhere the details went wrong. And from there, the whole job went downhill. You just couldn't please them. Now, is this fair? Absolutely not. But I say to you, life isn't fair either. And we can either build our business around these customer service details and succeed, or we can ignore them and keep saying, "What's wrong with that stupid customer? Don't they know a good job when they see one?" And what happens then? Well, we fail. It's our choice. Basic customer service point number 3. If you're still thinking that all of this sounds like a lot of work, you're right, it is. But companies that are customer-led, that make managing the customer's interactions with the company their number one operating force, these companies that are obsessed with the details of good customer service, universally, without exception, they are much more profitable than other companies in their business sector. These companies have a greater market share, and they keep their employees much longer. So I promise you, service engineering your company, yes, it will be a lot of work, but it will be worth the effort. Let me give you some examples on the importance of customer service from industries that have nothing to do at all with working in customers' homes, and yet even they see just how important customer service is. For instance, automobile companies know that a brand-loyal customer is worth $140,000 in revenue over that customer's lifetime. Now, you've met brand-loyal customers before, and these are your friends that proudly proclaim, "I'm a Ford man." Or maybe in an extreme case, after a few beers, they'll get up in a crowded bar and yell out, "I'll fight anybody here who drives a Dodge." Now, that's what I call a brand-loyal customer. Now, can you see the value of a brand-loyal customer in your business? Someone who's incredibly, passionately devoted to you and your business? Unfortunately, sometimes these car dealers don't. Do you think a dealer who bickers with a customer over a $10 or $20 difference between the estimate and the final bill is remembering that this client is potentially worth $140,000 in business to him? I think not. I think that car dealer has totally forgotten just how important a brand-loyal customer is. Let's look at another industry, banking. Now, if there was ever a business that dealt in a commodity, it has to be banking. After all, banks sell money. And what's more of an indistinguishable commodity than money? And yet even these dried-up old stuffed shirt bankers realize that a brand-loyal customer is worth $80 per year in bottom-line profit to their bank. That's why when your spouse bounces a check, a smart banker will roll right over and waive the overdraft charge when you call up and beg them to do so, because they realize they want you as a brand-loyal customer. What about an industry that's going to sell very few of a given item during a consumer's lifetime, such as an appliance manufacturer? Think about how many refrigerators or washing machines you're going to buy during the next 20 years. 1, 2, 3? Certainly not very many. So maybe you would think that a brand-loyal customer isn't necessary in the appliance business. Well, think again. Even the appliance business has calculated that a loyal, brand-loyal customer means $2,800 to them over a 20-year period. And then think, on the other hand, about a business that you patronize at least weekly, your friendly local grocery store. Now, grocery stores should have realized long ago that while you have to eat, You don't have to buy your eats at that store. Grocery store trade associations have calculated that over a 5-year period, a brand loyal customer is worth $22,000 on average to a given grocery store. And yet you still see store managers arguing or haggling over a returned item with a customer. Just think of the changed behavior this manager would show if he or she didn't view the customer as an unreasonable old lady bent on gouging $2 out of their store. Think what this manager would do if they looked at this old troublemaker and saw a $22,000 5-year certificate of deposit standing there. Well, my guess is they'd cheerfully refund the customer's money and maybe even give them a rose or a flower or a gift certificate just to compensate them for their trouble. And then this manager, instead of feeling used and angry over fighting with a client, could feel really good because they had kept a brand loyal customer for their store. I'd like you to reflect on what a brand loyal customer could mean in lifetime revenue in your business. Probably a huge amount, and that's not even counting the referrals this customer can give you if you convert them into being a cheerleader. But now let's think about the tough introspective part. Think of instances in the past when you've forgotten about what a loyal customer means to your bottom line. Think of the times a customer has backed you into a corner and you started to react emotionally. Maybe you won that battle. Maybe you beat that customer out of a few bucks. But who do you think lost the war? And finally, here's the really scary question for you. Have your employees been exposed to all these statistics we already talked about? How are your employees treating your customers on the home front? Now, if you're not sure how your customers are being treated, you may very well be subject to the famous 10-10-10 rule. And if you have a paper and pen handy, I'd like you to write down 3 number 10s right on top of each other, each of them on a separate line. Now, these 3 number 10s stand for a powerful concept on the importance of customer service. Our first 10 stands for $10. Because when you think about it, most customers can be pleased with less than $10 of expense to you. So the first part of our saying is, it only takes $10 to please the customer. The second 10 you've written down stands for 10 minutes. We've already discussed how fragile our customers are and how they make sweeping decisions based on tiny, silly little service details. So the second part of our saying goes, it takes 10 minutes to lose a customer. And finally, for our third number 10, well, that stands for 10 years. Because many times it takes 10 years to win a lost customer back to your business. 10 years where you may not even know they're gone. Just think of the money. Think of the lost cheerleader opportunities that have been wasted during those 10 years with your lost customer. So get your employees on board with the 10-10-10 rule. In other words, it takes $10 to please a customer, it only takes 10 minutes to lose a customer, and it many times takes 10 years to win that customer back into our company. Can you feel the power of these service statistics that we've been talking about? Number 1, that it costs 500% more to find a new customer than to keep an existing one. Doesn't it make sense to take some of this 500% and use it to delight the customers that you already have? Point number 2, customer service is a game of details. Manage and control the details, and guess what? You've produced another cheerleader. Point number 3, companies that are obsessed with consistently producing these cheerleaders can charge a lot more and are definitely a lot more fun to run. Even boring old industries such as the automobile or appliance manufacturing industry, banking, even your local grocery store have learned that loyal customers are incredibly important to their business success. But for my fourth solid fact on customer service, let me share with you some shocking statistics on customer complaints. All too often, Homefront managers will tell me that they don't get too many complaints. They'll complacently say, "Steve, most of my customers are satisfied. I almost never get complaints. Why, I can't remember the last time I heard a complaint." Well, let me give you a scary, frightening statistic on customer service. Of all the customers that are unhappy enough to stop doing business with you, only 4% will ever complain or verbally let you know what went wrong. Did you get that? 4%. That's all of your unhappy customers that will ever let you know what went wrong. I call them the precious 4%. Now, what do I mean by that? This precious 4% of your customers are the ones who will give you the unvarnished truth of how your business looks to your clients. These customers that have the courage to complain will give you a clear vision of your business that even a $1,000 a day consultant can't do. So that's why I call them the precious 4%. And of course, these same complacent managers will then say to me, "Well, those rotten customers, Steve, why don't the other 96% complain? Why don't they tell me what went wrong?" Well, think about it. How have you been trained in service in America? If you complain, are you generally met with open arms and a sense of gratitude and apologies from the company that you're complaining about? Or do you run into justifying and defiance and anger? Well, for example, think about a recent meal that you've eaten at a restaurant, and chances are you received, as so often happens, mediocre food and even worse service. As you're paying the bill on your way out, the cashier will invariably ask in a bored tone, "How was everything?" And my guess is you will almost always reply, "Fine, just fine." Now, was everything fine with your meal? Of course not. But the last time you complained at a restaurant, what happened? It was confrontational, it was ugly, but even worse, nothing improved. Nobody paid attention. You got your courage up, you got all hot and bothered and lathered up, and nothing happened. So why should you complain to this new restaurant in an effort to help them improve? You'll be emotionally upset for the rest of the evening, and nothing will improve. You will have changed nothing. So what do? You mutter to the cashier on your way out, "Fine, just fine," and you never, ever go back. And very likely you tell your friends not to go back either. Now, do you think that this sad little scenario only happens in restaurants? No, this same pathetic little scene happens countless times every day out there on the home front. So you see, our customers have been trained from countless nasty, ugly, emotional encounters not to complain. So actually that precious 4%, the 4% of our customers that are willing to stick their necks out and risk getting them chopped off emotionally, we should love these people. We should approach them with a great deal of care and concern and gratitude because these people are acting as unpaid consultants to us. Complaining customers are the ones that keep us honest and that care enough about our company to actually make the emotional investment necessary to complain. And that other 96% that never let us know what went wrong with the service details when we worked for them, what happens to them? Well, that 96%, they just sort of fade away, never letting us know what went wrong, and the next time they need work done on their home, they call our competitor. And we get stuck in that vicious rut of continually having to replace our first-time customers with a new batch. and paying 500% more to do it. Now, this concept of not being complacent about customer service is so important, let me put it another way. On average, for every complaint you receive, 24 other customers will also have problems with what's happened in their home. And of this 24, 6 of them are offended enough that without action on your part, they'll never do business with you again. Now, the other 18 of these 24 people, they may or may not do business with you again. They just won't call you back if they encounter an alternative, such as your aggressive competitor. If he places a plan of action before them that makes it easier for them to do business with him instead of you, they will switch without a thought. So please, don't live in what I call a fool's paradise. Because for every one of those darn complaining 4%, for every single one of your customers that complains to you, another 24 customers will likely be voting silently with their feet. Or, more likely in a Homefront business, with their fingers, walking through the yellow pages, looking up your competitor's phone number, and never coming back to you. Where's that leave you? That leaves you blissfully unaware of the insidious erosion of your customer base. So what can you do about it? It's simple. You can change. You can quit doing business every day stuck in the same old rut. Quit working on the urgent crises all the time and start focusing on the important details of customer service. In this message, I've tried to give you a different vision of the residential services industry. I hope you'll look at your customers and your business in a new light. But mostly, I'll feel like our time together today has been well spent if you're saying to yourself, I better get moving. I've got some changes to make. Because that's really what the rest of this course is about, change. Changing forever the way we operate on the home front. But change is really, really hard. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel discouraged and really beat up on. You're eventually going to need encouragement for you and your employees. So in our next message, I'm going to share with you 7 concrete, solid reasons to face the uncertainty and the stress of changing into a business focused on customer service on the home front.